Yep. Okay. We see you down there, Rob. So we're going to go ahead and just get you a little bit of an introduction to Rob Adkerson. And then we're going to go ahead and bring him up for, 10, 15, 20 minutes. We'll have a good chat with him, let him know what he stands for, just like we promised. Hey, any other candidates out there that want to come up and talk to us and talk to our audience, let us know what you think about what you're running for. By all means, we'll bring you up. So just real quick, here's a quick introduction to Rob, and then we'll jump right into it.
I'm running for Congress. I realize that we can do this. We can actually do this and take common sense to Congress and take common sense to Washington, D.C. But there's 5 things that I need from everybody, okay? Number 1, your prayers. Number 2, do all the things on this post. If you don't follow me, but share the post and comment and let me know that you're on board. You support common sense. Number 3, go to voterobadkerson.com, scroll down to the bottom, and follow me on all the other platforms. I need followers on all platforms to help me get the message out.
All right, we'll go ahead and stop him there, and then we'll just bring Rob up and let him finish off. So that's Rob Adkerson, a quick little introduction. I think most of you, if you spend any time on TikTok, you've seen him there. But let's go ahead and bring Rob up. Rob, welcome.
Hey, guys.
How you doing, sir?
I'm wide open, man. How's my mic? I don't know what it sounds
like. Your mic sounds fantastic. We know you're a bit of an expert at this. All the time you spend on TikTok and TikTok lives and those debates. Well, you and I have been on panels before a couple of times. Good dude. Tell us about it, man. What are you running for? What's brought you out of the shadows and off TikTok?
Before I get into me, let me just say what an honor it is to be here with all 3 of you. SK is the class in the bunch, but. And I'm going to go ahead and admit,
Hold on a minute. Did you hear the show that her and Nom did last Friday? Did you hear all the potty mouth words coming out of her on Friday?
Wait, hold on. To be fair, I warned. I said, this is not the podcast. Tonight is not the podcast. If you have kids in the room, your kids need to leave the room or you need to turn it off. I warned everybody.
Definitely the smartest of the bunch.
Look, when you wake up and read the headlines in the morning, I don't know how anybody keeps their mouth clean nowadays. So,
I mean, I have a good heart, but I cuss a little,
I'm not me, surely. But the last thing before I get into me, I'm gonna go ahead and admit something up front to you guys. Okay, I was probably a month in before I realized I was watching 2 different guys. Okay.
Well, at least you only made it a month. There are literally people still today who send me messages like, hey, there's this guy who looks just like you who's stealing your content. I'm like, no, and he's been making content for over a year and they still don't know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
look, guys, I appreciate you having me on. This has turned into a real thing. What a lot of people don't know about me is as I built this, back in the 2024 campaign, I was completely anonymous. I wasn't even on camera. And that was because of my job. And it became clear to me my path was going to be doing this and doing podcasts like you guys. And what folks didn't realize is that I've been for the last 11 years chief of staff for Congressman Barry Loudermilk. And, when you're a chief of staff for the member, you're not the guy out front. Everything I do publicly has an impact on the congressional office. So I respected that through the 24 campaign. And then, as I started to realize what my future was, I have the relationship with Congressman Loudermilk that I said, look, this is going to be my future. So I'm going to start to get out there. I'm going to start to put my name out there. I never talked about my job. I never brought up even that I worked in Washington. I was just talking common sense. And I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, I got off my couch back in the days when Glenn Beck did the 9/12 movement and the Tea Party movement started.
Same.
And that's how I ended up in that position, actually. Getting active and being active in politics. I started a 9/12 group that morphed into a Tea Party group because Obama wanted to fundamentally transform the United States of America. And the guy that I worked for, Barry Loudermilk, is one of the he's that guy who when I hear people say, well, they're all in it for themselves. They're all pizza. Well, I know for a fact that at least one of them is not. And that's why I've been with him and served with him for the last 12 years. And so he decided, and I've been pointing this out lately to the crowds because I've been going to forums as a candidate, and term limits comes up. And, you know, I can get into my beliefs about term limits, but, you know, most of them agree that for the House, it's about 12 years. Some people say 6. But those same people ask me, you know, we love Barry Loudermilk. Why is he quitting? Why is he quitting? I said, well, he's quitting at 12 years because he was never going to be a career politician. This is the guy that we want. He's term limited himself. So,
awesome.
you know, I've been in this fight for a long time. And when he hung it up, actually, again, this wasn't my plan. I had a list of really solid people that I could get behind, that I wanted to represent my family. I went to them one by one, and they came back to me one by one and said, "It's not the right time for me. Why don't you do it?" I said, "Because I don't want to. That's not my plan." But then the field started to shape up, and there was, you know, there's some ambition in here, and excuse me, and there's some ambition in the race, and I've seen what Washington does with ambitious people.
Yep.
They like ambitious people in Washington, D.C., and they
They're
will swallow
easy to
you up.
taint. They're easy to corrupt. Yep.
Absolutely. If you've dreamed about being in Congress all your life, they're going to make your dream come true. But I've been serving in Congress and doing recon on the enemy for the last a little over 11 years, and I've never let DC into my blood. I've maintained my residence in the district where I'm from virtually all my life. And I want to, you know, I've stepped up, and over the last couple of weeks since we got in the race, God has really demonstrated to me. When I first announced, I wasn't completely sure yet, but God has demonstrated to me that, yeah, this is the right thing. So we are in it 150%, and we've got a lot of momentum. We've got some good, solid people that have come on board and endorsed me, and our support. You know, the folks that supported my boss before, I have a great relationship with them. They're all on board.
Awesome.
And we've got a legitimate chance to take this thing to Congress. So,
yeah. So one of the things, I can attest. I had no idea that you were chief of staff to Congressman Loudermilk until today. In fact, I told my brother Patriot Dad, I watched the video and I'm like, holy crap, that's why he's doing this. He actually worked for Barry, because I asked him, I said, is that MTG's old seat 11? So I looked it up and I was like, no, it's Barry Loudermilk. And then I saw your video where you basically said, yeah, I've been his chief of staff but that just is a testament to me that you've not let DC get into your blood, because all your time that I've seen you on panels and we haven't interacted a ton, but I never had any idea that that's what you did for a living. It certainly, you didn't lead with that at all.
no.
Yeah, I didn't either until today. And I just wanted to say, you can let Loudermilk know that my favorite work of his is the investigation into the J6 Select Committee. I reference that every single day on TikTok Live, debating J6, because that's all they wanted to talk about for like 3 years.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I've been right there at the tip of the spear. One of my biggest regrets in this whole process of having to leave is that we're not quite finished, and the report is going to be coming out before the end of the year. But in order to run for this seat, I had to basically resign, fire myself, and run. And so that means I couldn't continue in the investigation. That's not to say I don't know what's going on. I've still got my connections. I know what's happening up there. But I've been right there the entire time that we have deconstructed the sham Pelosi committee and everything that it was. So. But yeah,
that you guys have done a great job with that. I mean, how do you feel about them finally getting the pipe bomber? Or do you think they got the pipe bomber?
I will. I'm going to reserve. On that one, because I'm
That's
outside
fair.
of it now. I'm
Fair.
outside of it now, and I know folks is going on, so I'm going to reserve comment on that one. What I can talk about is all the things that we did prove, which was Donald Trump did approve the National Guard. Chief Son of the Capitol Police called for it 3 days before, and Nancy Pelosi turned it down. Yeah. What I can tell you is that the Select Committee put out an 800-page report with our tax dollars that mentioned Donald Trump thousands of times, and it mentioned the pipe bomb 5, and they were all in footnotes. They never investigated the pipe bomber.
Yeah, and what about those people that pushed that whole ass bundle of lumber onto Capitol grounds at like 6 a.m. something in the morning on January 6th?
Now you're getting into the thing that's near and dear to me, because I've been trying to track those dudes down.
Yeah.
you'll never convince me that those were MAGA people at
Nope.
all.
They
I
not-
know
Well,
exactly
look at
when
their
they came
shoes.
onto the first camera.
No,
Well,
look at
Rob,
their shoes,
there's-
look at their clothes. Those people were not MAGA people there for that at all. And they pushed a whole bundle of lumber. And I have copies of all of the permits for protesting. It even says there are no structures allowed on Capitol grounds. Yet these people pushed a whole ass bundle of lumber at 6-something in the morning on January 6th, erected that structure except for the crossbar and the rope, went and got coffee, came back, put up the crossbar and the rope. And nobody said anything on any communications, no Capitol communications, no nothing until 9-something in the morning on January 7th. Get out of here. Get out
Hey,
of
You
here.
know what? But you know what they did do on the east side of the Capitol that day? Some dude tried to pull up there with a little barbecue grill and sell some hot dogs, and they were on him like
On
just
him.
instantly. You got to get out of
Exactly.
here.
So tell me those people were somehow MAGA and were like actually doing that because they believed it. And that's the one picture that perfectly frames the Capitol that's everywhere, that everybody, that's the photo from January 6th that everyone remembers with the noose hanging down. No,
Yep.
I don't believe it for a
Yep.
second.
Well, I
No,
mean, you
they-
shouldn't believe it because there's also video. And I don't, Rob, I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm sure you did. I don't know if it's part of your report. If you can't talk about it, that's okay. But I know I saw the video. I saw the video of Antifa changing their outfits in the middle of the grass next to a bus, putting on their Trump gear as they were getting ready to march over. I saw the video of Antifa inviting people to January 6th, getting them hotel rooms. They were proud about it. They were talking about it. We know that Antifa was embedded in that crowd. We know it because we saw it on video. And then suddenly that video just disappeared until Elon Musk took over Twitter or X now, and it started to show back up again.
Yep. And so I will reserve because the work still continues. I can just tell you that there's a lot of stuff still to come, and there's a lot of work still being done. So, and I will also tell you that the will to get to the bottom of this has been disappointingly non-existent from a lot of people, and not just to Democrats. So, I mean, that's been one of the biggest frustrating things for us. We've done this now under two separate committees and subcommittees and different things. And one of the, if God sees fit that I get this pin, I'm going to be much more free in what I say coming next year. So we'll get to it then. But there is going to be more to come, and more work that's being done on that right now.
So let's do this, Rob. I want to lay out some foundational stuff, and I have a couple of quick questions for you. So what part of Georgia does R-Ga-11 cover?
So we're northwest. So you mentioned the MTG replacement race. Clay Fuller is the Trump endorsed candidate in that race. They are right next door to us, between me right now and Alabama.
Okay.
It goes down the kind of the west coast of Georgia. This district is basically, if you're familiar with Atlanta, I-75 goes from Atlanta to Chattanooga. It goes right through the middle of this district.
Okay.
So we have 3 full counties and 2 60% counties. Cobb County is a big county in Georgia, and Cherokee County, which I'm very familiar with in this area up in the north as the more rural part. But so it's I-75 corridor out of Atlanta.
Got it. Now, one thing that you touched on, specific to the J6 investigation and the lack of will from some Republicans, it feels like, to actually get to the bottom of it. That seems to be an epidemic in this Congress, where it doesn't actually feel like the people that we put into office, whether they're from Georgia, whether they're from Ohio, Mississippi, wherever, it doesn't feel like these people are actually there to push the agenda that we voted for. How are you going to deal with an environment where it feels like people are actively working against the American people?
Well, and so it's not. There are members who go up there with good intentions. Here, the deal is, and here's what I've learned over these 12 years. So as an activist beforehand, a conservative activist, I knew when I woke up in 2009-ish, 8, 9, I actually woke up when somebody in the Bush administration said we had to abandon this free market principles to save the free market. And I was like, wait a minute, what? So that's when I actually originally woke up. And so I knew that this behemoth of a federal bureaucracy was something that the founders feared and hated and wanted not to happen, but it happened. It's a beast. It's a self-preserving, self-healing entity that stands its own, and most regular Americans, to their benefit, don't understand. But to our country's detriment, we're going to have to make them understand, because it existed in the natural form that founders were afraid of. But then Barack Obama, a dedicated Marxist revolutionary, came into office and he weaponized that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he implanted his people, his Marxist revolutionaries, into that federal government bureaucracy permanently.
Yep.
He went beyond political appointees and he made it that thing. Washington, I've talked to people. I said, basically, I've spent 11 years doing recon on the enemy. And the enemy is, when I say the enemy in Washington, most of us think of Nancy Pelosi or AOC or Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell or some of the people on our, Republicans and Democrats alike. They're just the face of a faceless machine. And, and I'll get into real quick part of what I want to do with this, and it ties into all this Somali fraud, Somali daycare fraud, the hospice fraud in California. And we can find this stuff in every state, even the red ones.
Oh, yeah.
Less so because the state governments have more control over the money they spend and they kind of police it a little better.
I don't know. I'm in Ohio, and it's pretty nasty in Ohio, too. There's a huge Somali community in northern Columbus, and I would be willing to bet it's as bad as what you're seeing in Minneapolis and Ohio, too.
But
well, and the thing is this. So if you track every dollar that went to Somali daycares and then eventually to Somalia, it started as a paragraph in a bill in Congress. Our Constitution says Congress has to spend all the money. What they've done over these last many decades is they've figured out that if, for example, you remember when Nancy Pelosi said we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it, and everybody, including myself, thought she meant they don't read the bills. That's not what she meant at all. Do you remember the old Mad Libs game? You would fill in the blanks and it had no context and it would be a very funny story. That's what these bills are. And that's what she meant. She said, we have to pass this bill to get it over to Kathleen Sebelius, at Obama's HHS director, so she can write the bill. And the reason they started to do this was because they know if they had filled in those blanks before the vote, they would have been held account for what was in there. That's what she really meant. And so this is what I want to do. And it starts to get to this monstrosity of a federal government, a federal bureaucracy, is that Congress, and listen, Antonin Scalia told a room full of Republican congressmen one time, he said, if you don't want us, these things keep falling out, man. He said, if you don't want us to keep interpreting your laws, do your damn job.
Right.
Write the bills like you're supposed to write the bills. Stop dumping it off and letting us and the bureaucracy figure it out. And that's what we need to do. Every dollar that went to Somalia daycare fraud started as a little paragraph that said, we love daycares and we want people to have access. Here's $10 billion, bureaucrats, write the bill.
Right.
That's what happens. And that's what I want to expose that. I want to push Congress back to writing the bills like they're supposed to and take responsibility for how you're spending our money, and write into the legislation intense sunlight and oversight over our tax dollars.
Well, isn't that what the Supreme Court ruling on Chevron deference is going to force Congress to do? Right. Because prior to that, basically the Congress had given the bureaucracy the ability to just make up their own rules, to do whatever they want. Congress has said, we want to give the bureaucracy the ability to govern on our behalf because we're too feckless to do it ourselves. And then the Supreme Court came in and said, no. You're going to have to actually write laws the way they're supposed to be written. So it feels like they've kind of created a pathway for you to be able to come in and legislate that way.
Exactly. A lot of fantastic stuff has happened that doesn't make the Fox News headlines. There's no breaking alert. There may have been one mention of Chevron deference on Brett Baer's show at some point, for geeks that pay attention to policy. But that was a monumental decision, and it does open the door for people like myself. And one of my favorite people up there is Tim Burchett, the Carhartt congressman. Yep. I want to be that guy. You guys know that I'm in front of this video and I'm doing the videos. I want to be that guy. I know him. He's a great guy. But I want to become basically compadres with him so we can start to build that caucus of people who are the Sunlight Caucus, who are taking the information to our voters, taking the people in front of these screens into the recesses of Congress and exposing what's going on.
I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you're aware, but you should look in Georgia when you're looking. looking at fraud and thinking about all of the fraud, look at the immigration pipeline. Look at all of the organizations that support the immigration. See if you have an immigrant welcome center, and what all organizations are upheld and pushed in there, because we have found a lot of fraud, and we've basically found a huge pipeline for not just the immigration and all the people coming here, but also the dollars. The amount of money that goes into this is insane, and they help people get benefits. They help them get a place to live. They help them do all of that. They get them free classes to learn how to speak English. They get them jobs. They do all of these things. And the amount of money that goes in there is unbelievable.
So
There's so much
is
fraud.
Clarkston, Georgia on your radar?
I haven't looked really at Georgia that much. I did see Ohio, and I don't remember all the states that signed on to the immigration compact. You might want to see if Georgia signed on, because I know Ohio did. Ohio, Maine. I can't think, there's like 11. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but look up the immigration compact that was signed. It's all the UN pushing all of their crap onto the United States. The immigration is one of those pipelines. There's several different. It's way too much to get into here, but I
would suggest you start looking to Clarkston, Georgia. That's just one, but it's a huge refugee population. The mayor is a far left, indivisible guy. If I was going to look for that in Georgia, I would start with Clarkston.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have the welcome centers, all of those immigration organizations, I think it won't be too long before you might see some really big people making videos about it, and it'll be moved on from the hospice fraud and the daycare fraud and those types of things, and it'll be the immigration fraud.
I have some bad news for you, Rob. Yes, Georgia has endorsed and joined the UN Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. I mean, as someone who's putting together a platform, this might be something that you're going to want to start hammering, because anytime the UN is coming into your state and they're trying to help define what regular migration means, it's not good for your state or the country.
No, I'm for dissolving the UN.
I don't even know how it's legal for these states to be signing this compact.
Did I hear you just say that you're for dissolving the UN?
Absolutely, 100%.
I love that. Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah. Well, I think not only are we going to be dissolving the UN, I think we're probably going to get very close to dissolving NATO very soon too. But that's a different conversation for a different time, I think.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question real quick about how do you plan to do anything about like campaign finance or the foreign influence, the foreign money influence on U.S. NGOs that then influence policy and campaigns? Do you have any ideas as to how that can be fixed? I don't know if you watched the hearing.
So there are conversations that need to be had about campaign finance. My experience with that goes back to campaign McCain-Feingold, which was a disaster. It was an attempt to do something. So part of my philosophy is, I want to keep continuing to put this responsibility back on the people that run this country, and that's us. The problem is most of us don't realize it's us. A lot of these problems that we talk about, like with term limits. I mean, I'll just not to jump subject, but I'll come back to this. But term limits. If our founders knew that we were excited about 50% turnout, 60% turnout, they'd roll over in their graves. And the further down the chain and the closer to home it comes, mayors, city councils, county commissions, school boards, the turnout is 20, 30%. 34% turned out to elect a communist to run New York City. So 18% of that city elected this guy. For you other 64%, 65% that didn't go to vote, it's your problem. You sat on your ass and you didn't go vote, and now you have a communist running your city. So with campaign finance, I feel like when we talk about elections, until we have people who understand self-governance and get out and make these decisions, it's so easy during campaign season to get face-to-face with people like me, shake hands and look me in the eye and see where I'm coming from. But we have a very lazy populace, and that's how we got to where we are. People are not participating in self-governance. And if we did that, I believe in the American people as a whole, if they weren't apathetic, their common sense, logical people who want freedom and they want to be left alone and they want to raise their family and do all these things. The problem is they don't understand, because our public education system has stripped us of civic education, and they don't understand that we're the ones governing this country. We
Yeah.
wouldn't have to
That's the
pass a
term
million
limit.
laws if people would just participate.
Yes, that's the term limit. Voting is the term limit. That's how you put a term limit on it. You vote them out of office, you primary them, you find somebody to run against them, and you get them out of office.
And I will say, this is my answer to that term limits question: is look, I don't like you just said. I agree with you, but given the state of our country, if we need to have a term limit, I'm open to that conversation as long as we can talk about term limiting staffers and bureaucrats.
Amen. Because staffers and bureaucrats really are where the power is held. I mean, that is the one thing that the left has understood for a very long time. If you can embed your ideology in the actual framework of government, not necessarily in the halls of Congress, but the people who actually export government across the country, then you can control government. That's why they were all so upset when Donald Trump came in and started slashing federal jobs, because they recognized that the people that they had embedded in the trenches, the ones who are actually reading the regulations or are enforcing the regulatory environment, that's where the communists live. They get it.
And I'll tell you that it's a carousel. It's a musical chairs. These folks go from the bureaucracy to the committee staff to K Street, and then back to the bureaucracy, and then back to the. Sorry. I didn't want to put on the headphones, so I went and dug out these are actually my Delta, they hand them out free when you're on a flight. So, but that's the deal. I mean, it's a carousel up there. And the problem I've seen is these kids come up there to intern out of college. They're on a different path in life, but they come to Washington and it's highly addictive. So now they're going to change their major, and I want to go work in Washington. And then they go up there as a 20-something and they never leave.
Yeah. So Rob,
they probably get sexually harassed all the way while they're there to a ridiculous degree.
Not in our office.
I'll take
none of that.
Yeah,
Rob,
none of that in my office.
I believe that.
I eventually want to kind of hear you lay out your platform. Let's do that first. Kind of talk to us a little bit. Everyone has a platform. Talk to us a little bit about the things that you are currently campaigning on.
So, okay, well, the top three I would say is, in considering the situation that we're in, Donald Trump has 2 years left. I have been up there for 10 years. I've proven that I'm not going to be part of Washington, D.C., but I can tell you that as new members of Congress come in, they don't know their way around the halls. They have to staff up. They don't know what's going on. They surely can't get anything done because they don't have any relationships. I know the people in Congress that actually are on our side, who are truly America first. And I mentioned Tim Burchett. There's others. And including the people who are not elected, who are truly on our side. So for Donald Trump's sake, in his final 2 years, and listen, we all have to pray and work and tell everybody, we have to hold on to the House and the Senate. But if we can hold on to the House, then the next 2 years will be great. But he needs somebody in there who's ready to stand with him on day one. The other part of the next 2 years is that we're going to be electing his successor.
That's right.
Who's going to carry this on? Okay.
Yep.
People are impressing us. A lot of people talking about Marco Rubio right now. Obviously, JD Vance is in line and do the thing. A lot of questions, and we need to vet all of these people. Nobody needs to be just crowned as the successor, but we need people in place who are who understand the reality of Washington and who knows who we can trust and who are willing to tell the people what they know about Washington. The main part of my platform is I want to get on oversight. I want to do the work that we just talked about. I want to get Congress to write the bills, but I also want to continue and genuinely investigate all of these NGOs and all of these programs and all the money that goes out of Congress, because I think there's enough fraud there that we actually could start to have a dent in our deficit and our debt, because that's how much fraud there is in the federal government.
I've done the math on this.
I think it's $1 trillion or more a year.
It's more than
Absolutely.
that.
A year.
No, it's more than that. I've done the math on this based on the Government Accountability Office reporting on this, who, by the way, I think is actually lowballing it, where they say it's between $500 and $700 billion every single year. And you're talking about at least 1/3 of our entire national debt today that we're saddled with is because of fraud, waste, and abuse. 1/3. And I think you can make a strong case, like SK said, that the actual amount of waste, fraud, and abuse is probably close to $1 trillion a year. Easily.
Absolutely.
Easily.
I think it's at least $1 trillion a year. And, I think it's really, really important whoever gets into Congress. And I hope that people in your district will vote for you and you get an opportunity to go there and represent your district and to make a difference in Congress. But I think it's very important that the foreign money be taken out of the NGO ecosystem, which is then, filtered back to the politicians. We've done so much research on this, and the fact that the CCP and our actual adversaries have so much influence on policy in the United States is terrifying. And if you watch the hearing that they had in Congress a few weeks ago, it was very under the radar. Nobody watched it. There was no one in there while it was going on. It was completely empty. And even the Congress were not in there the whole time. They were all out and they would just come in to ask their question and then they would leave again.
That
And
happens all the time.
that was one of the most important hearings that I've heard in a long time. And they flat out admit that, yes, there are foreign countries that are basically have control over some aspects of our domestic policy because they are putting so much money into these organizations. You can have entire NGOs that are owned and funded solely by foreign dollars, and it's not illegal. They register an NGO in the United States and they run these NGOs and they put all of this money in there and then they just filter it right down to the protesters, to the entire color revolution ecosystem.
And I'm absolutely in favor of doing something with that. The way that I figured out this thing works, and I don't know, I think it was Grover Cleveland who said politics is downstream from culture.
That's
So
right.
the beginning of this is what Nick Shorty did in Minnesota. What you're talking about right now, SK, is getting it exposed and getting the wind to blow back at Congress, because politics is downstream from culture. So first we expose it, and then we find the motivation in Congress to make it, to actually do something about it. And I absolutely agree. I don't support any foreign money influencing our politics at all.
Yeah.
So
Rob, can I take this in a slightly different direction? So I think, Rob, one of the challenges that you are going to face in this campaign is a massive headwind that seems to be, at least in my estimation, is this inorganic rift that some people are trying to create within the MAGA base. You've seen the content. You know about all the demons of propaganda. You know what they're doing. You know they are actively trying to destroy the agenda by redefining the agenda that we voted for. And you made a comment in your answer a little bit ago, and I want to press on that just a tad. You talked about America first. I think in my opinion, one of the things that any legitimate candidate is going to need to be able to do is to accurately define what they mean when they say America first. Can you talk just a little bit about your definition of what it means to actually be America first in this current environment that we're in right now?
well, on a serious level, on an adult level, I think there's all these interpretations out there, and I think some of these black pill people and the people that you were talking about before I came up here, the influence is very obvious based on their line of attack. The
Yep.
people that are influencing their attacks is very obvious to me. America first to me is policies that benefit America first. That doesn't mean everything that we do is going to just be America. We live on a globe. We live in a world where this communist this idea of communism, and see, we get into trouble when we start to frame communism as, oh, that's a communist country or that's a communist country. It's a mindset.
That's right.
And in a different podcast, when I have much more time, we can go back to the 1890s and go into Woodrow Wilson and all the damage that he did to our country from that progressive, which is also the root of the communist mindset. So to pretend that America first means we're not getting involved. We're not talking about this. We don't have to worry about what's going on in Israel. We don't have to worry about what's going on in China. We don't have to do all these things. Is juvenile and ignorant, in my opinion. America first means we have to fight on the battlefield of reality. I think Sun Tzu said some things about, you don't get to fight on the battlefield you wish you had. You got to fight on the battlefield that's in front of you. And then we live on a planet where people want to end individual liberty. They are communists. They are collectivists. And I can take this all the way back to a spiritual level, which is actually, I'll say that's the first time I actually ever saw SK was the night you, Patriot Dad, had the prayer, or the week, the times that we were praying for the election.
Yeah.
And we're here now. Those prayers are answered. And you know, that was my first interaction that I actually saw SK. But America First for me is a group of serious people, leaders in the country who understand the reality, and we have to make decisions that put the citizens of this country first. There's a gross interpretation of that means we're not to look outside our borders, or we're not to, you know, these kind of things it doesn't make any sense. It's denying that we live on a globe where there are dark forces that want to end our individual liberty.
Yeah. I love that answer. It's so well articulated. I would encourage anyone running for Congress right now to be fully prepared to explain why it is America first to remove Maduro, why it's America first to strike Iran before they can drop a nuke or a ballistic missile on top of Israel, why the Abraham Accords are in fact America first. Because if you can articulate that in a way that the average voter who is not motivated right now to get up off their butt, that's a game changer. If people understand that you cannot leave the Middle East without leaving a framework for regional control, then it's going to turn into a powder keg. We have to be able to explain that to people so that these black pill idiots can't run the conversation the way they've been running it.
Well, and look, so, you know, I referenced those prayer sessions that you had for Donald Trump to be elected. They were powerful. They were awesome. And what we're seeing now, and I think you guys are in the same, SK is probably younger than all of us, but we're in the same age range where Iran has been wreaking havoc on the planet for our entire lives. And before when I was a child, I may have had 4 or 5 years when Iran was actually a very cosmopolitan country, an advanced country. They were the most advanced country in the Middle East. And now we've got a president who is ending this. It's like we've been kind of nipping around the edges. All the presidents want to nip around the edges, and we want to stop the Houthis, and we want to stop the Hezbollah and Hamas. Why don't you cut off the head of the snake?
Amen.
Which is what we're doing right now. And the world's going to look back on this in 100 years and say this is one of those moments. And most of the time in history, the people that are living in that moment don't really understand the gravity of that moment. And that's where we are right now. So there's a handful of us, I think, that have some sense of it, but I don't think we can even grasp how big this moment is.
I love it. And Joanne Freeman, and I also saw, who else made this comment? I think it was, hold on, let me find it. I want to make sure. Anyway, I know that Belinda, I believe, is that who it was? Anyway, we are going to be bringing back the prayer lives, and we're going to be bringing them back here relatively soon once I get back home and get settled and all that stuff, because you're right. We need to get to a place where we are praying people back into a place of full awareness of what's happening into this country.
Well,
There's been a spiritual cloud that has been layered over top of a political system that has to be broken, and we're going to have to be the ones to do it. So we will.
Yes, I feel like we have a whole population that needs discernment. Like when something happens, like it's like nobody's following their faith. I mean, again, you guys, I cuss a little. I'm not perfect. I mean, I cuss a lot. I'm not perfect. But there are things that come with having a relationship with the Lord and praying and all of that, and having people around you that are good people. Discernment is one of those things that comes with that. And it's extremely important. If you're going to turn the TV on, or if you're going to get on social media, you need to have some discernment to be able to tell what is true and what is not true. And if you don't have discernment, you're just going to be completely lost, and you're going to be led the wrong direction.
Yeah, and I won't get into the full story that you mentioned, discernment, but I mean, part of the story that is too long to tell about how I ended up in the position that I've served in the last 11 years was I actually went out to the Navajo reservation with my daughter. Spirit worked on me the whole time. I came back. I told my wife, we got to give our life to the Lord. We're supposed to be missionaries. And we started rearranging our life. I thought he was going to send me to the Navajo reservation, not Washington. But I have met multiple people who he plucked all over the world and sent to Washington. But to speak to SK's thing about discernment, I learned this a long time ago. When you pray for wisdom and discernment, you better pray for courage and boldness, because when you get the discernment, you're probably going to be called to do something that's going to take courage and boldness.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yes, I always say I have a sticker, a little sticky note on my mirror in my bathroom. It's been to 3 different houses with me. It's been up there for probably 15 plus years. And it says, do not ask God to guide your steps if you aren't willing to move your feet, because that's exactly what that reminds me of. When you pray for those things, you need to make sure you pray for also
Absolutely.
the things that are going to have to support what's going to teach you those things.
Yep.
Amen. Amen. All right, Rob. What do you want to leave us with here? And is he going to stick around for the show?
No, I think we've got some content that maybe Rob doesn't want to be associated with as he's running the campaign. I don't know. We'll see.
What I would say is what I have to say, and it is this for conservatives is in the battlefield that we live in. This is I have to go say vote robadkerson.com. The Democrats and some of these Republican opponents, these ambitious Republican opponents, have a lot of money, and unfortunately, it takes money to get your name out into voters and to get the name out there. So, vote robadkerson.com, folks. Like I said in one of the videos, if you folks can get whatever it is, it helps. It's just a reality, and we can get back to the finance, the campaign finance part, but it does take money to get your name in front of people with a text message or in the mailbox or and TV is out of the question in this district. We're in the Metro Atlanta district, and I'm not ever going to get anywhere near getting on TV. But I do have to introduce myself. So if you support, if you want to help me try to get there, I have to ask that you go to the website. And but even more so, and I've said this also in the videos, if you can't give, I completely understand that. I came from a very, very poor family growing up. If you can pray, that's free. And that's very much appreciated that you pray over this whole thing, and not just my race, every race across the country. The good people that are running for Congress need your prayers, and we need a miracle to hold on to the House and Senate so that we don't descend into chaos the next 2 years in Donald Trump's last 2 years.
Amen. Amen.
So.
Yes, and guys in the comments, you don't have to be in his district to help. You don't have to be in his district to donate, but you don't have to be in his district to make phone calls, to call people. And if you live in the district, you don't have to donate money. You can just pick up the phone and call the people running in your area. You can call and talk to them, find the one that you think represents you the best, and offer to help them however it is that you can help. You'll find that very quickly you'll become very close with your candidate. And when they win, they'll call you and ask you for all sorts of things, ask you to look at legislation. What do you think about this legislation? All kinds of things. You'll get a direct access to your representative. You just have to reach out and you go knock doors for them. You can make phone calls, send text messages. You can do all things to help.
Yep.
And they don't even have to be in your district.
And look, there's going to be 40, 50, 60 people coming in with me, new members of Congress, because of all these people that are retiring. So It's going to be a big new class. And so it's important that all those people in those districts go out and find the right person.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
Rob, I'm going to ask you to make one promise for me, if you don't mind. When you get to Congress, when SK hands you a dossier of NGOs that needs to be investigated, make it happen, please.
Yes.
I don't know if you've been following this podcast, but the amount of information that SK and Lisa and Data Republican and this group of investigators have been creating, it should topple some massive organizations. We just need people to do something with it.
I'm here for it, and we'll stay in touch. I mean, you'll be, like you said, let's do it. I mean, I'm ready to dig into all that stuff, and 100%.
I mean, people should be in jail after the stuff that we found, and we just need people to make that happen. So, all right.
Fantastic.
Guys,
listen, thanks for coming up. Hey, your primary is May 19th. Is that right?
May 19th. Early voting starts April 27th.
All right. Well, listen, you've got my phone number. If you ever want to come back on, by all means, send me a text message and we'll have you back on.
If I ever want to come back on, if I get elected, we're going to make it a weekly segment. How about that?
There we go.
Heck yeah.
We'll do
we
it.
can talk about it. Guys, thanks. It's a real honor. Again, I'm huge fans of all three of you guys, and I appreciate you having me on.
We're huge fans.
God bless.
of yours. Good luck, man. Good luck.
See you.
That was awesome. Super cool.
That was great.
I mean, I'm impressed. So I've seen his content from a distance, and he's always made really good content. I had no idea. I'm impressed.
Had no idea, just the the sort of the depth of understanding, like the Constitution of history of Grover Cleveland and Woodrow Wilson and his role, and Sun Tzu. The guy's a well-read, well-educated person, and it's very impressive.
Yeah. And we're going to freaking need it, right? We are going to need people in Congress who understand the fight that we're up against. I mean, there is no doubt now that we have foreign agents operating in this country specifically to divide this country right down the middle and destroy the MAGA agenda. And if you don't have people in Congress who understand what's happening and are willing to take the fight to them, I mean, it's finished. It's finished. I mean, you've got these idiots. Did you guys see? Can we show the Marjorie Taylor Greene video?